Isn't that weird to think about that? This will be in like 80 years referred to as the 20s,
Yeah. It'll probably be in 10 years. We refer to it as the 10s, right?
I guess.
The 2010s when we're talking about Britney Spears and such.
But us referring to like the 1920s, 20s will be this. It's weird. We're going to be old.
Maybe
we'll make it to being old. Welcome back, everybody. Marginal advice. You missed us so much. I just know you did.
It's been a month, a little more, maybe.
Holidays got in the way a little bit. So sorry about that. But it gave time to wrap up 2022. And 2022 wasn't the best of years for equities. And inspired by that,
wow,
we're going to look at the
instant transition into the topic. All right.
I mean, that's what people are here for. They clicked on the video for a title, right?
Yeah.
Wait, did you actually make an intro?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. So we're going to look at the biggest, it's a combination of absolute declines in market cap value as well as percentages, kind of trying to balance the two out into just what's the most interesting. So, and that's because a lot of stuff got wiped out just this past year.
Yeah, we had a really big, nice, frothy 2021, and not so much this past year. Both because of the things we're going to talk about today. They went down, sure, because of the economy, but, they had their own reasons for doing it themselves. They helped themselves out going down like that.
Well, if you look at the charts for many a stock, you'll notice they have sort of a trend line over time, and then you hit 2020 and 2021, and it just... So it's a reversion to mean in many cases, at least for we'll focus on 2022 first, which might be more familiar to folks and won't come as too much of a surprise. And then we'll look at maybe some earlier examples, because it's not the first time that it's ever happened. And things have also been worse as far as equity declines in previous eras. So without further ado.
Yeah, we can go right into it. Sure. So, I mean, we start out with, I'm sure you've heard of Meta has been on something.
I still cannot bring myself to refer to it as Meta instead of Facebook. I have such a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Is it just me?
No, everyone calls it Facebook at this point. They just say, if they're referring to the stock specifically, they'll say, oh, Meta. But the company, Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can change the parent company, but it feels like, as opposed to Google, which pretty much it's still referred to as Google everywhere, despite the fact that technically its parent company, Alphabet, is Alphabet. No one says Alphabet, other than specifically when it's talking about, like Alphabet is reporting earnings or something.
Yeah.
Facebook, on the other hand, like it's being referred to as Meta, and they've rebranded themselves as Meta, and I just can't. Anyway, whatever. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Whoa. Your jacket has your name on it. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up. That's why I don't wear this jacket outside, because it has my name on it. But it's been very chilly. To be fair, I
wouldn't either.
It's been very chilly, and so it's been a great time, because you know how a lot of jackets have the fur inside of like the main torso area, but they don't have it in the sleeves, right? That happens a lot.
That seems like an obvious place to put it, because you're wearing a shirt. You can't really feel the fur, but the arms, you're like, it's so nice.
My thoughts exactly. And also, like, if the jacket is sitting out and it's cold, if you put it on and it has the fur, it's nice, right? It doesn't feel cold. Yeah. If it just has like the nylon in the sleeves, then you're like, the body is nice. Oh God, it's cold in the sleeves.
And then it's just cold nylon touching your arms.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a great jacket. And then it has my name. I can't. Every time I see it in my closet, I'm like, Oh yeah, this would be a good one to wear. And then, oh God, it has my name on it.
Yeah. I don't wear anything with text on it. Like this has text. I wear it inside. If I had anything with my name or face or anything, just be like, all right, pajamas, cool. All right.
Maybe I just pass it off as it's like a limited edition Air Jordan jacket.
I was about to
something.
say, look, no, it's like the, from the air, it's that.
It's Michael Jordan. It's not my name. It's Michael Air Jordan. This is actually
it's
it's $100,000. Michael Jordan actually wore this in the playoffs, and it says YouTube from the 90s. They knew ahead of time. And also Michael Jordan shrunk by 2x.
Well, everyone was smaller in the 90s. They were only 90% their size.
Oh God, we've just totally.
That's
gone
why it
off
was
topic.
called that.
We've just gone so off topic.
Well,
anyway.
I guess if we're still off topic, I'm playing with a paintbrush here because
because we're painting a picture for the viewers of all the stock declines.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, this is fantastic.
I
happen to be doing some arts and crafts here. This is actually a failure. I was doing some arts and crafts. I haven't touched a paintbrush since I was in middle school, so this is a bit of an update for me. But I tried to do something as like a gift. I tried to get this train to be in a different color scheme, but I couldn't. It didn't work.
You're trying to get it to be a watermelon?
Almost actually. Red and this is watermelon, I suppose. That's a good observation. Okay. Yeah, red and blue actually is what I was trying to do, but I guess I got the wrong paint. This is Crayola washable or something, and I tried stripping the paint off of this test one with I'm sorry, the camera was shaking so much I was moving. I was trying to strip the paint off of this one to maybe see if I could get it to change color easily, and so I put in a bowl of acetone for an hour and a half, and that didn't work. So I just took this knife and I scraped off the top of it, and then I painted it red. It kind of worked, not as well as the stock train paint. And so I wanted to. It's this custom train. I was using it to match a different train logo to give to someone, but that failed, and now I just haven't cleaned this up yet because I've been busy with other stuff. So I'm going to be playing with paintbrush.
I like how that went from Speaking of getting off topic, let's just derail this paint strip train.
Hey, I figure if I'm putting chapters in here, I may as well get all the skippage into one place.
Oh man, that was I'm glad that you're getting your arts and crafts on. Maybe you can do some backgrounds for Horizon Worlds.
Oh yeah. I guess we'll wrap this up and move on.
You were so ready with that one.
That took 4 hours, yeah.
Oh, you did that. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I wrapped this chair, and then I wrapped this chair fan as well.
The chair looks like it could have been done by a factory. That was very, very impressive.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said,
go to work
4 hours.
Wrapping cars. If you wanted to, wrapping Teslas.
Oh yeah, Teslas, cars, Facebook. That is what we're talking about today. Look at that. Look, it's the beginning of the next chapter in the video.
Talking about the podcast topic.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess so. Meta
dropped
AKA
by
Facebook.
70%. Yeah, Facebook dropped by 70% in 2022. That is. You know what? Good. Yeah, we give our opinions about things strongly on this podcast. I mean, it's Facebook, and I don't know if I've said it in the podcast before, if it was more of something I've said in a video on like the main channel at some point, but it's like Facebook has essentially hit the saturation of their product to the entirety of the world, right? And it's like at this point, almost the only way to bring new people online is getting new people who still don't currently have internet access to have internet access, and then getting them to become Facebook users. Meanwhile,
You have, I think, Facebook's brand image kind of declining across most of the rest of the world that does have access to it. And as such, they're losing users there. Most of younger people who are getting to the age of becoming targets to use Facebook are not interested in using Facebook. They're on YouTube, they're on TikTok. And so Facebook is really losing its shine, and only now finally has that really started to show itself reflected in the stock valuation. And so, yeah, I view the Meta thing and Horizon Worlds as it's an attempt to sort of have the company reinvent itself. It's like, okay, we don't know if we can grow Facebook's core products the way that people expect us to as a growth company historically. So, well, we've been this good at this product for so long, we must be able to have a hit on our hands if we pursue this Horizon Worlds VR thing. And so they're hoping to replicate that same success with a completely different product. And I don't think it doesn't work that way always.
Because not only do you have, as you said, people aren't going on it both because it's not the new thing to do. You know, you'll have people say, oh yeah, my dad's on Facebook, and then the new people aren't going on to it. Alongside, it's kind of become more and more in the public consciousness recently that Facebook has been doing some negative things for society, it seems, with the whole purposefully making people angry and riled up because that's what responds to engagement the best. And so they tailor algorithms to do just that, to keep people in bubbles, to make sure they don't leave the platform, and just all of this kind of terrible stuff alongside the data harvesting, that whole thing with Cambridge Analytics is when people first discovered that they were selling data left and right to make money, selling the data or making advertisements, which was a core part of their business model. And now that Apple has changed their settings so that they can't just wildly take your data, they need to, have permission, and the iPhone prevents it under cases. And so, I mean,
when you're prompted with the notification that says allow tracking or ask app not to track, yeah, who clicks the allow tracking button, really?
Right? Sometimes I'll click allow tracking just because I figure, well, let's not.
Do you do it on apps that you like and you're like, I'll help you guys out?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that, and also if I'm because I never use normal search, I always use private tabs because I don't want Google to remember my searches, even if it's absolutely nothing. When they ask, allow cookies, allow tracking, I say, yeah, sure. So you can have a higher percentage of people who accept this thing, so you don't have to do some other strange model of generating income. But
the GDPR thing is the worst thing that happened to the internet ever, where every site you go to, we use cookies, notification. Okay, I'm like, I know. Just stop.
We get it. It was implied by using the internet. It should pop up once when you open a web browser that says, hey, these sites are going to use cookies. Are you good with that? And that applies to the internet is going to use cookies. And you could just click, no, I'm gluten free. I'm allergic to cookies. No cookies anywhere. Any website.
Wait. If that doesn't exist, that's an amazing product name, by the way.
Yeah,
like some
gluten-free.
Yeah,
that would be a great tracker preventer.
Is that a product?
Probably not, but let's get into marketing, Jordan.
That's pretty good. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so it is astonishing how much money has been put into Horizon Worlds, it's essentially a video game, right? And $10 billion. $10 billion.
And you look at
like, you think when you hear $100 million was spent on the development of a AAA title game, and you're like,
Yeah.
that sounds like a lot. And I'm probably off the mark, with inflation now. It's probably, we're approaching, I bet, for a Grand Theft Auto 6 or something, we're going to be looking at many, many hundreds of millions all in. But still, pales in comparison. And also, you look at a AAA title game, and you're usually like, oh, that is a very polished looking piece of software.
So if you polish it enough with $10 billion worth of polishing, you'll find that it gets very smooth. Hey, but honestly, I think it can come back, because I heard they may be adding a revolutionary new feature to this. Legs.
Oh yeah, I have heard about that. Yes,
it's just
legs.
It's so
legs
funny.
are worth at least a couple billion in development costs.
There's the two L's in billion are legs. They're the two legs of the billion. That's what the billion stands on. But it's so funny for all of this to happen, and everyone's like, this is kind of ridiculous, Zucky. This is why are you spending so much on this? And it looks like nothing. And the company's going down all year. They're losing quarterly. They're going negative negative growth in profits for the first time in 2022, their quarters. And after all this, Zuck's response is like, all right, wait, look, we know you've had issues, but look, guess what? We're going to add legs into this. Legs are coming. Legs are going to be here.
The thing that's really interesting about the situation is, in many cases, it's hard to see exactly what a path is that a company could take in order to reclaim some of its lost value. I think I do genuinely believe, in the case of Facebook, if they said, you know what, we're scrapping Horizon Worlds, we will continue to offer Oculus, we'll keep having our VR platform other people can develop on, sure, but we are going to refocus back into Facebook core business, do our best to expand advertising outside of, what Apple to work around, what Apple has prevented us from doing. I think in one day, Facebook would be up 30%, probably.
Yeah, because if they just split Meta off into a subsidiary company and kept Facebook as its core product, as its core focus, because people are saying they're losing sight of their core business product to do this other pet project, then billionaires and pet projects, theme of 2022.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's how you know that it was too frothy.
Yeah, because the Apple privacy thing lost them $12 billion in sales, which they're worth a lot, but that's 12 and a half.
You got to take multiples into account there.
Yeah, that's 12.5% of their gross profit. So it's they're losing a bit. And so this was that first series of graphs here. You don't have to pull it up, but it's there. You'll see in 2022, it's their first time having a year-over-year
negative
quarterly decline. They're not doing fantastic because of that. Apple, Mr. Cook is cooking up a plan to get rid of Facebook.
I think it's not glamorous, but Facebook's path forward really is almost becoming like a dividend company. They have a very reliable source of income. Their PE has dropped dramatically. I think they're like 10 to 13, something like that now. And
it's
so
a little different now.
Like, they obviously can generate money, but it's not, I think, the growth engine that people were hoping it would continue to be into the infinity future. Which is a problem across the board, really. And
yeah, all the tech stocks dropped because of the lack of frothiness last year. But, Meta and a couple other ones that we'll talk about, they played into the drop a little bit. And behind the scenes as well, it doesn't seem to be going well, because the vice president of the Horizon Worlds project left in the middle of last year, so probably not going fantastic. And then also the COO of Facebook, Meta, is she also left at the beginning of last year, and she's been the CEO since 2008.
COO, yeah.
Yeah, COO.
You said CEO anyway.
Oh, excuse, I'm sorry. CEO since 2008. Also left last year, towards the beginning of the year. People say in the background it's because Zuckerberg is kind of quite controlling, and he'll have people around, but he'll often be the big guy who makes the final decision on everything, including this metaverse thing. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry, I think you were still saying something.
No, we're all. I think that basically sums up Facebook's plummet from, around a trillion to, they did cross the trillion threshold, and then, they're now
back down to 200
around
something.
300 or so.
300, yeah.
Still a very, very large company, but it's just a different approach going forward. All right. Well, next up, a company I think most of us are familiar with.
Yeah. Speaking of
Tesla.
Facebook and the metaverse being powered by electricity. You know what else is being powered by electricity?
Wow, what a segue.
Tesla vehicles.
Whoa, dude. Oh, wow. I didn't see that segue transition coming.
Same. Segways are also powered by electricity, but you ride them. You know what else you ride? Tesla vehicles. I could keep doing this.
I do remember a few days ago when all the headlines were that Tesla has lost 69% of value.
I thought that was so poetic. Oh man! Because part of why it's dropped, obviously not the full story, but it's because it's Elon's antics has been part of people's reason for not. I've heard just from anecdotal stories. Coworkers have said, I was going to get a Tesla, but now I kind of feel weird
I think
about getting one.
Catalyzed. Well, so it catalyzed it in both directions. So I think a lot of what made Tesla go sky high in the first place
it's interesting.
Was Elon's approach and being seen as kind of a Tony Stark sort of figure, and Tesla is going to revolutionize everything, not just cars necessarily. And so things got a little bit ahead of themselves. And I think that it's a combination, A, maybe the Twitter antics, and B, the fact that maybe in this, new high interest rates environment, people are really taking a harder look at what should the values of these companies really be, and seeing that a car company, which people are going to probably argue with me, no, it's not just a car company. It is mostly at this point, it is a car company. And for it to be valued at every other car company on the planet combined, there we go. Thank you. Thank you
during the big froth. What's another word for? I keep saying froth. What's a different word for it?
Bubble. That's froth has a lot of bubbles in it.
Can we call this a bubble?
I think there was a little bit of bubble action
during
going
the
on
bubble, the biggest bubbly time. This is the graph of Tesla versus everything else.
Which is like cool, even if you say that Tesla isn't just a car company, it's more than a car company. But is it that much more of a car company?
Is more than all car companies?
Yeah, that's so. I think. Look,
the answer
maybe
no.
You're right. Maybe you're right in the future, and that Tesla is able to expand into. Well, here's the thing. I think the $1 trillion market cap, it implies the success of at least United States nationwide fleet of self-driving autonomous taxis that operate in like an Uber sort of network. I think it's pricing that in.
But that's the thing. They're going to have that next year.
I understand, but it's pricing that as, and I know you're being facetious here, but it's pricing that in as it's in the bag. It's happening. Yeah. Like there is no way that doesn't end up panning out. And I think that's what the $1 trillion market cap is at. I have always been very skeptical about the nationwide robo-taxi network, primarily just because like where I live, is it's a difficult, annoying road, and it is
Where you live
unfathomable.
in general or very
No,
close to you?
literally where specifically where I live, my house.
Every time I go there, I'm thinking, I'm going to crash.
But I cannot see a world where, barring no other cars being on the road at that time, a self-driving car can, under all circumstances, navigate to my house. And obviously this is anecdotal because it's just based on my house, but the amount of variables that are at play, specifically when driving up to my house, I hope to be proven wrong one day, but we are certainly not there now. I don't think there in the next 10 years, maybe in the next 50 years, we do get to a point. But the issue with self-driving is it can't be 99% accurate. It can't be 99.9% accurate. It has to be 99.9 100 times, nines after the decimal point, accurate. Otherwise, people are just going to be dying all over the place. I have driven Teslas. I have been in Teslas many times. I think they drive well. I think, the fit and finish thing, I think, is brought up to be more of an issue than it actually is. So I'm happy to play both sides of the argument here. I think it's a perfectly good car to drive. Like, I do.
From what I've not personally driven one, but someone I know, when they have driven one, their experience, they said that it felt like how a car should be driven, how a car's experience should, because just the action of pressing on the gas to the brake, it feels like you're very a part of the car because there's that instant torque. Yeah, that instant torque. It's nice car guy. There's that instant kind of, it really feels like you're part of the car. And so that is a really positive experience.
I have driven a lot of very pricey cars, and it is genuinely, it's a well driving car. Like it's in comparison to many other cars that I've driven, like around that price point and even much more expensive. It drives very well. It has very nice suspension. The center of gravity is very low, which gives it very good handling. The brakes are the only thing that are a little bit so-so on the car because it's just extremely heavy. I do think the brakes are underpowered for something of the weight. But beyond that, like it's a nice car to drive. The problem is that, like, obviously the company at this peak, and even still now, isn't exactly priced like a car company. And I agree, they have other ventures, the solar and stuff like that should be factored in. But I think people just recognize that, okay, look, high interest rates at this point, it's going to compact the multiples. And you have that combined with when you see the CEO of a company selling nonstop, I don't think it makes you as inclined to buy into that when you're getting dumped on by the insiders. So I think that also hurts. It's many factors combined.
Yeah, if you go to that second image I sent over, that was a tweet by Elon Musk. And he says, in 2 years, someone should work anywhere connected by land and not blocked by borders. Example, you're in LA and the car's in New York. It'll drive to you. And that's fantastic. I'd say we can have that in 2 years. Jordan, what's the date on that bad boy?
January 10th, 2016. Nice anniversary there to that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. But I think just if they had not been marketing it for all of these years, it could have been better and people might have a more positive opinion of it because at this point,
the stock wouldn't have gone to the highs that it did. It's
that
part
is
of,
true.
He being the salesperson that he is, because he is, I would say, his biggest, to his credit, biggest skill is being a salesperson. And if he wasn't doing this, I don't think we would have seen the meteoric rise of the stock. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. It's funny, his kind of like, it's 69, 420. It was his windfall and his downfall. It's what made it go up originally.
He was able to sell quite a bit at the peak and then on the way down. But he's made out very well on his sales. But whatever it is, when the CEO and figurehead of a company is selling a stock, it's not only going to push the price down simply by the act of them selling, but because people are going to see that and say, well, if he's selling, like, shouldn't I? If the CEO is out, I should probably scale back a bit.
And because he's made all these promises for so long, even though it did help the stock go up, at this point, people are like, okay, yeah, self-driving, whatever. You've been talking about this for 6 years. What do you mean it's not done? Wasn't it done like 5 years ago? And so people at this point, even if they say, all right, full self-driving, it's good, the general public will probably not be as excited as they would have if it hadn't been teased as being so close for so long.
I would like nothing more than to see self-driving succeed. I think it would be hugely important for making humanity more productive.
Yeah.
I am concerned about the path of getting there in terms of the safety of essentially beta testing that on public roads. It's like I'm torn between, it's supposed to be something that's full self-driving, but also you are supposed to be like hands on the wheel every few seconds. And I have tried out not the Tesla full self-driving, but the Tesla autopilot on the highway. And I've actually ended up, like, maybe it's improved by now, but I just found like it's what it wants from me. Maybe I couldn't figure out the proper input for like how to make the wheel not be mad at me for not putting my hands on it. But I would try yanking on it a little bit and it would not register. And then I yank hard enough that it would just disengage the autopilot. And I'm like, what do you want from me?
They have a documented proper input. You're supposed to stick. Actually, this is blue. You're supposed to stick an orange into the steering wheel. Just like stick it right in there, and that's fine. It'll go. It won't ask you to hold the steering wheel anymore. Yeah, you just take an orange, a grapefruit, you stick it right. You wedge it in there, and it's like, oh yeah, you're holding it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I would totally have done that because, like, look, on the highway, it generally works fairly well when it doesn't ask for your input. But it is beta testing a product that has safety implications. And so, like, I'm on the fence about that whole thing. But at the same time, I do want self-driving cars to work at some point. So I'm torn is all. Anyway.
On the subject of the promises, just I think we should take a look at this video.
Should we? Copy strike audio. Blah 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 blah.
No, I mean that was it. I just figured I'd bring it up. Wouldn't want us to forget about it and abandon it entirely or anything.
See, everyone keeps referencing the Cybertruck as like
the
an example.
semi-truck is the one I'm interested
they
as well.
have apparently started deliveries on that, but no,
they have.
As I am the car enthusiast here, and the Roadster,
Jordan's
the
Roadster
Roadster 2 was like, I even thought this was back in 2018. Was it? I don't remember when they unveiled the Roadster 2, but. They took $50,000 deposits for the Founders Edition. I know someone who did a $50,000 deposit. I haven't followed up with them and seen if, like, is there a way that they were able to get their money back? Like, because they did their $50,000 deposit on Tesla before it had its meteoric rise. Imagine you did $50,000 deposit on Tesla stock. At the same time they unveiled Roadster 2, you would have been up to $500,000, but instead you put it on a deposit on the Roadster. Where is it? Anyway, the Roadster, it seemed really cool, you know? You're going to 1.7 seconds to 60 or something like that. It's going to have jetpacks. Anyway. People keep bringing up the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck was like 2 years after they unveiled the Roadster 2 or something like that. Where is Roadster 2?
Jordan's like, okay, thanks for bringing up the Cybertruck so I can tell you how stupid it is to mention that. The Roadster, let me tell you about that. I have this entire packet that I wrote about it. Where is it? Jordan, I'm sorry that there's no Roadster.
Anyway, I was thinking about a deposit, and I'm very happy that I didn't do it.
I'm glad you didn't do it either.
Oh my God. Anyway, I hope I think that the Cybertruck will probably end up releasing at some point. I don't think it's going to look the way that everyone hopes it's going to look. I think it's going to
That'd
look
be so
very
funny if it just
different.
looks like a Ford F-150.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as like Cybertruck at home. But
Oh yeah.
it's just, I don't think it's going to look like it was shown in the prototype. I don't know if Roadster, like they just went quiet on Roadster 2. And so does that ever happen, or is it just...
I don't know. We'll have to do
Anyway, yeah, we can do a follow-up. Remind me in a couple of years or so if Roadster 2 happens.
If Roadster 2 happens, episode driving in a Roadster 2. Yeah.
So anyway, Tesla, 69% in 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to finish that off because I know people are passionate about Tesla. I do think the cars are good to drive. So it's not a critique on that at all. So
see, the cars are so good to drive. We're upset that they are not giving us the cars that they promised.
Yeah, I think the Roadster 2 would
cars.
be fun to drive. I don't like driving big cars, so Cybertruck, I'd leave that to other people. But Roadster 2 would be freaking cool to drive. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds. Pretty interesting.
There's 1.3 that they said?
No, I just repeated what I thought
I
you
think
just said.
It was like 1.7 that they were aiming for.
7, okay.
Which is still mental, and I don't know how you achieve that on tires. But anyway, we've dwelled on the first two for quite some time. So
yeah, we have. We got to speed up. Luckily, oh my God, it's 41 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not expect that.
It's okay. We'll zoom through the others.
Yeah, speaking of Zoom,
that one went down.
That's not one of them.
Yeah, but it was down quite. Anyway.
It went down, yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of Zoom, you know what you run Zoom on? Your Apple MacBook. And
you could, yes.
Wow, that's our next. We're not going into specifics on this one, but Apple is an interesting case because if you look at the top 5 biggest market cap declines over a single day, or the top 10
in terms of absolute values.
Absolute value. Half of every single company ever, absolute value decline, Apple.
But why is that? Because Apple is very big.
Is enormous. Apple is the biggest company on earth, followed by Saudi Aramco and Microsoft, which they're at their peak. They were.
I believe Aramco was above Apple at one point last year. Aramco, whatever the pronunciation is. They were above Apple, I believe, at one point because oil went like real hot.
Yeah, after it went negative.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Apple is so big that every day with little minor fluctuations, it's losing and gaining the market cap of many entire companies out there listed in the NYSE.
Yeah, just yesterday, Apple went up 0.46%. That is the equivalent of Hasbro. The entire company of Hasbro, just that little bump. And it went down a lot that day before it went back up and settled on that 0.46. It went down like at least a couple Has brothers and sisters, like it went down a whole Has family.
We now measure Apple movement in terms of Has
by
brothers.
Hasbros. Yeah. And speaking of Hasbro, boo.
I don't know what happened.
Did you hear about
Hasbro?
Hasbro updated their new Dungeons and Dragons guidelines.
Wait, is Hasbro Wizards? Do they own Wizards?
Hasbro, yeah. Okay. It's the parent company of Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. And this is recent, they updated it to say, hey, if you make something based off of Dungeons, and it makes over 750,000, I think, we get 25% of that.
I did see that.
And it's retroactive, which is ridiculous.
Oh, like they're going to try to collect on previous income?
It's just, all this stuff, start paying up now.
Okay, got it. But they're not like actually going after people for past revenue, hopefully, because that would take legal action. And Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't believe so. Yeah, people are getting quite upset about that because they used to do all this open, free community things, and now some higher up, his quote was, "We are not monetizing D&D as we could be," and so
sounds like another episode right there.
Yeah, it is. But Apple went up the amount of Hasbro in one day, just because
0.46%. 0.46% day. So anyway, Apple down about 30%, which is actually not terrible in comparison to many other stocks in the NASDAQ tech overall.
That's half of the last two companies we discussed.
So yeah, they've lost about $1 trillion from peak to trough over the last year, but still well above pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so while it is, again, it's not that glamorous, because even though it is like overall one of the top market cap losses ever, it's like, well, Apple's still holding up fairly decently. We'll see how it goes throughout this year. Maybe we're going to look back at this and be like, Apple didn't hold up fairly decently. But thus far,
that would
present,
be weird, because at the moment, Apple is like the pillar of safety. So, but
Apple is holding the market on its shoulders.
Yes. And the point of that is, bringing it up, is if you see a stat, here's the marginal advice of the podcast today. If you see these stats, it says, oh, this company lost $7 billion in market cap in one day. It's atrocious. You got to look at the percentage, because if it's this enormous company, it may look bad, but it's really nothing at all. It's just normal standard fluctuation. Just like all statistics, make sure to look at it in comparison to the rest of the group.
Because 95% of statistics are made up on the spot.
I think it's 94%, actually, because of that one guy who changed his stance.
Got it.
But I actually, good on you for remembering that. I'm glad you did. But with that in mind, let's take a look at the biggest percent losses, which came
at least
from
a few of them. There are some others, but we had to kind of compact our list down a little bit.
At a far off time in the past of the famous Dotcom Bubble, which we may have an episode about in the future. But right now we're just going to look at some companies about it, such as WorldCom.
The name just sounds so .com-y, doesn't it?
It did. When you sent me a few, and I thought we were talking about current ones, I thought, oh, cool, that's great. There's a few more stocks we can talk about. And then I saw WorldCom. I'm thinking, this doesn't feel recent.
Based on the name.
Yeah, I thought I saw this name and my vision went blue squares for a second. And so this thing was a long distance. How about you explain it? Because you were looking around at this point.
WorldCom could be its own episode, because it was a big fraud. And so different from what we've covered so far, it wasn't just, the investors reconsidering their positions and selling based on macro environment.
They just lied.
They actually did illegal things. So yeah, they were leasing, it was a long distance telephone company that leased line. There was a whole bunch of stuff, companies that were formed and created and tried to leverage the AT&T breakup. And, WorldCom was one of them, and was just trying to essentially, lease the lines at a low cost and then sell them to customers for long distance calling and turn a profit from there. They went up big with the .com bubble, 6,000% between 90 and 99. And their peak market cap was at 175 billion, which that's a lot. That's a lot at the time.
That's a lot. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Basically, they were cooking the books, inflating their earnings. We could go into more specifics in another video, but it was uncovered. CEO was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and he died actually in 2020. But anyway, the outcome of all of this was that WorldCom, they acquired a company called MCI at one point as they were on their rise. They ended up becoming MCI, and Verizon acquired them for $6 billion in 2006. So from 175 to 6.
600? No, the number 6 was in a SpongeBob episode. So
was it? I bet the number 6 has been in a lot of media. It's a pretty famous number.
Anyway, CEO Bernie Ebbers was the CEO. He at least famous to this particular story. He said, "I know what I don't know." And hey, to this day, mind you, in a technology company where they were cooking the books in accounting, he says, to this day, I don't know technology and I don't know finance. Actually, he was from the South. I don't know technology and I don't know finance and accounting. But I am a damn good salesman. He didn't say that last part, but he was, which is how he got his team to get all coached up.
It'd be like
we're
me
doing
saying,
great.
Man, I know what I don't know, and what I don't know is YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
Or Minecraft. I don't know any of that stuff. Why am I here? Oh, God. Somebody come get me, please. I'm lost.
So that's just that's a funny little quote from that little story. He knows fraud, though. It was the CFO, I believe, who really pushed it at the beginning, but WorldCom, that was a big story back in the day, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. I would have been young, but I do believe it was a big story.
Yeah.
Another one, which is actually it's one of the few that's actually still alive and kicking.
Yeah, this is
today.
why I thought you were talking about current companies, because I thought, Cisco, that's an old one. They probably are maybe going down this year, but no, they did, but not as much as in 2000.
Yeah, so Cisco was the biggest. They were Apple. Cisco was Apple in 2000. They peaked at 555 billion in market cap, which is pretty crazy. That happened back in 2000, and we never saw numbers again like that until like
the late 2010s,
4 years ago or 5 years ago, or something like that. So yeah, Cisco got a little bit ahead of itself, but unlike many of the other companies during the dot-com bust, it stuck around. It went down from 555 billion to around 60 billion a couple of years later. But if you invested at 60 billion, it's had a pretty consistent growth chart since. It's down a bit over the last year, just, like everything else is. Yeah. But it has been a good investment, reasonably so, if you didn't invest to 555 billion. But even then, if you just did a little bit and then you dollar cost averaged over time, you would actually be okay. But it has never regained its original share price.
It's currently at 201 billion market cap.
So you a little over tripled if you got it down at the trough after the bust, but it's not hit its 555 billion or been anywhere near again. But yeah, Cisco, you might not have realized was the big boy.
And it's so strange to think. I don't think it's the same. It's not the same scenario, but Cisco being Apple of 2000 and just falling into relative obscurity compared to most other companies that you hear about now. It's so weird to think of that even as a possibility for Apple, because Apple seems as if they're
Apple is more diversified and has more of a monopoly over consumer goods in the App Store, and I think they are more integrated than Cisco. But I remember growing up and going to any other kid's house, Linksys router. It was like every single house had a Linksys router. And obviously they still sell them, and I think plenty of people still buy them. But it was like that purple with the Linksys right on the front, and that was everyone had it. So yeah, basically, and look, they're still very much in many households today. But I feel like that little purple Linksys router is just a very iconic piece of internet tech from growing up. In case people don't know what we're talking about, there we go.
Linksys.
Yeah, that was and like the first like switches that I bought, I think I still have them actually. Ethernet switches, they were all Linksys, kind of looked like this as well. So They were all over the
Old
place.
hardware.
All right, let's move on to another fun one. AOL.
Oh, a fan favorite.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of they're the .com darling, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, peak market cap of 200 billion in 2000, and they were
Understand it. Yeah, understand if I was investing back then and AOL 200 billion, I think, yeah, that makes sense. AOL is doing a lot of good stuff right now with the new
they're bringing
internet.
everybody online, right? They are the source of dial-up, which is how I connect to the internet. There's never going to be any other way to connect to the internet other than
I'll listen to that sound sometimes.
it's a nostalgic sound.
Yeah.
So they were.
Should we
play it, or you can just add it
play
in
it
post? You can add it in post.
okay? I'll add it as we're
As I was
explaining
doing
this. It's just going to be play. Oh yeah.
yeah. Make it sound like I'm really good at or something like that.
Oh, you were. I mean, I probably don't have to add it. That was a pretty much on the spot, on the nose, direct. You know those birds who like make their vocal cords make chainsaws and beanbags? Oh yeah. Yeah.
They can do a good dial-up.
Oh, with AOL's darling, you're the starling.
God dang it. So anyway, AOL, like just before the bust, they did a merger purchase of with Time Warner for $180 billion. And so that was a bit of an oopsie right before everything kind of plummeted. And then people weren't using dial-up as much as the tech improved to connect to the internet. And AOL had a big advertising business as well. And that's actually why Verizon purchased them for $4.4 billion. You're like, wait, they still were worth $4.4 billion in 2015? Because they still had enough of an advertising business in order to merit it. And probably a handful of people are still doing dial-up.
Oh God, I hope not. I mean, probably, but
I think it happens.
I don't want to think about it. But also AOL still has a little bit of brand recognition. People think, oh, you've got mail.
Yeah, I still remember the CDs that were like in magazines, the AOL CDs to get it installed so you could get on the internet.
You like CDs? 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 Like CDs? You like CDs?
Yeah. That guy who said you've got mail. He's still going around. I saw a video of him a couple of years ago. He got into an Uber, I think, and the guy was filming. So he's like, "Yeah, say it," and he said, "You've got mail." He was like, "Yeah."
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah.
It's his whole life. Say the line, Bart.
No. I hope he's happy about being recognized for that, because it just seemed like a wholesome, because he's an old guy and he's kind of just like, yeah. But yeah, the little yellow guy with he's going like this. The AOL mascot.
Yeah, AIM.
Speaking of
AIM.
AOL,
another A.
Oh, that's AIG.
AIG actually not Dotcom Bubble. They were global financial crisis.
IG.
Instagram. That's what it stands for.
That's the new one. It's got a peak of 150 billion in 2007. A little bit of a late bloomer there with the
bubble. They were issuing credit default swaps on mortgage-backed securities. And they had they were the company.
What a great business to be in 2007.
Yes. And it did not go well. We could do an episode on the global financial crisis maybe at some point, but perhaps
that's got to be a millennial episode 25 or 50 or something.
Anyway, it's
something big.
that went poorly for them, and they lost a lot of money. Why? Well, we'll get into that in our episode about the global financial crisis. But don't worry. Don't worry. They might have been worth $4 billion in 2008, but we bailed them out. So it's all good. They're still going. Their market cap is back, around like 50 billion or something today. So they made out okay.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be worse, but then they were too big to fail, and to the rescue. Although supposedly the government did make a lot in interest payments from the bailout, so profitable or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I believe that the U.S. government is fully divested from AIG at this point, but it happened more recently, and yep, that's what happens when you have really bad timing on a product.
Just if you're gonna fail, make sure to do it so hard that the U.S. government will bail you out.
Be too big of a pillar. It is being called too big to fail. So
Yeah.
I guess become that important, basically.
Because they got bailed out because they were so in the red.
It looks more pink on the camera, but whatever works. Orange, pink.
This is the pink one.
Pink. Yeah. Okay, so next up is I wasn't as familiar with this one because it was a service that was more widely used in Canada, but it's Nortel is another .com bust, and this is a pretty epic decline because they peaked at 400 billion Canadian dollars market cap in 2000, and they were 1/3 of the entire market cap of the Toronto Stock Exchange. So it's like you look at Tesla, and it's like, oh, it's all these car manufacturers combined into its valuation. This was, you take Nortel, and then you take half of the remainder of the entirety of the stock exchange.
Whoa.
And you got Nortel, and you got that. So, wow. Yeah, Nortel was another telecom company that also descended from AT&T and Bell Labs, and it just, again, got ahead of itself in the dot-com bubble, or investors got ahead of themselves in driving it way up. And 2 years later, 2002, $5 billion. So that just, that was a rapid, significant, and that's 5 billion Canadian dollars in 2002. Just a matter of their services not expanding as much as people were hoping. Worldcom was actually a customer of theirs, which probably didn't really help. And so, yeah, they went bankrupt in 2009. And actually, it was only at 2017 when everything was finally, settled and the dust was cleared, and finally no more goings on relating to Nortel. But it's wild how long things take to actually play out.
Wow. What was happening until 2017?
Just like court proceedings to figure out how to distribute remaining assets, things like that.
Wow.
So, yeah. It really ain't over till it's over. And then we got one final honorable mention. Try not to go too over time here, which is Yahoo.
Yahoo!
Yeah. So Yahoo is an interesting story, actually, because they had a peak market cap of 125 billion in 2000. And then they were... I'm sure it's familiar to some folks that they were acquired by Verizon in 2017. Verizon swoops in to acquire every failed .com bubble company. They're just the Verizon.
Verizon, here's a pinch. What? Oh, is something wrong there? Was something wrong there? We're buying you. I wish you could see the other side of the camera. That was a movie paper fall. There was 5 pieces of paper going
wow, that's so
going down like that. Anyway. Yeah, Verizon swoops in to take everything.
Yeah, it was MCI, AOL, Yahoo, probably more that existed we haven't covered. Who knows? But the interesting, so Verizon bought them for $4.5 billion. So you're like, oh, they went from 125 billion to 4.5 billion. But interestingly enough, with Yahoo, what Verizon bought was their core business. as far as like Yahoo.com and Mail, Yahoo Finance, things like that. But Yahoo made some investment choices in their course of history business operations that actually allowed them to retain a pretty decent amount of value that's like made them, kind of comparable to Cisco in terms of their remaining market cap from peak to when Verizon bottomed out. So it's like Cisco, went 550 to 200 now. Yahoo actually was still all of their assets about $40 billion because they invested in Alibaba early on, and also they have a Yahoo Japan, which is like a separate joint venture, which also still was worth a lot. So if they didn't make those side investments and diversification, it would have been 125 billion to 4.5 billion, but they still had those other assets kind of waiting in the wings, which was very interesting.
Speaking of their investments, Yahoo had an opportunity back in the early 2000s to buy Google. And they were, I think, $5 billion they could have bought Google for after an initial lower offering. But they had two chances to buy it. And they didn't. And now Google is worth slightly more. However, of course, yes, it would not have turned out as it did
it's
if
hard
they
to
bought
know
Google.
what actually would have happened with Google under different ownership. So you can't say, Yahoo would have been the most valuable company in the world now or something like that.
But it's funny to hear that they could have, these two entities could have been one, but they decided not to.
I believe Facebook as well happened somewhere along the road. Like they were able to get in talks with Facebook or something like that. Or maybe if not, then it was another company on this list and I forgot to bullet point it. But Yahoo probably was able to talk about acquisitions for many, many companies and, didn't do what they didn't do. So who knows though? You don't know how a company would have grown under different ownership. So the future may not have turned out the same. But that is that's
you don't know what you don't know, except if you don't know that you don't know technology or accounting or YouTube or podcasting.
I don't know any of these things. I still don't know why I'm here. Anyway,
I'm not here.
Oh, okay. Well, then we shouldn't be here anymore. So thanks for watching.
So thanks for watching. Yeah. Wow. You have a great day. Investing advice. Don't invest in a company that will go bankrupt. There you go.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Thanks. That's how I made, nothing. Oh, shoot. Hey, be sure to comment. We like those. Like the video, I guess, if you, or don't, I don't know. Share. Do people share videos? I don't think you share, but yo, dude, I just found this podcast. Look at it. I don't think people do that, but if you want to,
you could.
Sure. What else?
Subscribe.
I guess.
Hit the bell.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the bell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're gonna remember, and we're gonna do some of that consistency. Yes,
definitely. It's so, we're gonna do our best to post with consistency, and that's all we can really do.
Yeah. So thanks for waiting a month. If you probably weren't.
If you look at the audience retention chart, I want you to know
10%.
When we started doing this outro, anything that was left, it's 0 now.
Cool. Great. Okay. Well then, bye, Jordan.
Farewell,
Nobody
Alex.
else.
Bye.